What's up, Raider Nation? Welcome to TRU RAIDER Podcast. I'm your host, TRU RAIDER. Now, what I want to talk about today is Patrick Graham is looking to be retained by the Las Vegas Raiders. It's not officially official yet. I know ever since the Cliff Kingsbury debacle that happened last year, we're all a little bit skeptical in Raider Nation when, there's a report saying that we're hiring somebody or retaining somebody, but there's not official signed documents yet. But the report is out is that the Raiders are working a deal with Patrick Graham to remain the defensive coordinator moving forward. And I don't know how long that's going to be. I don't know if it's going to be 2, 3 years, 4 years, whatever that looks like. But I think that there's a lot of good things to look at in this. Some people really wanted to see a different defensive coordinator come in with Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll did say in his opening presser that, he did want to retain some of the people that were already in the building. And I think that this is a good move, right? A lot of people are really, scrambling in Raider Nation talking about Max Crosby's going to want out. He's going to want to get traded, all these things. And part of what Max Crosby wants is he wants consistency. And so being able to play under the same defensive coordinator, this would be his 4th year in a row, adds some consistency at least on that side of the ball. And, there's a lot of good and a lot of bad about Patrick Graham. The fact that Sanjit T really likes Patrick Graham makes me believe that Patrick Graham is worth retaining in it by itself, right? Sanjit T, I really trust his ability to, break down football just in general. But one of the things that really sticks out to me about Patrick Graham that I don't like is that there always seems to be a hole in the middle of the field, and they'll do this thing where they start picking apart the middle of the field. And so then, all of a sudden our defense is trying to, compensate for that hole in the middle of the field, and then they start running the ball on us. And then, boom, they'll hit us with this outside the numbers kind of hits. And it's like this consistent, like I can call it out as it's happening. So I think that there's a lot of those kind of things that are on the downside for Patrick Graham. But, I really believe that Pete Carroll, being a defensive-minded head coach, is going to be able to help kind of complement what Patrick Graham has already done with this defense. Now, Patrick Graham came in to the Raiders 3 years ago. And at that time, 2022, the Raiders had the number 28th ranked defense, which is horrific, right? That is awful to see. I hate to see it. But as the years have gone by, there was the progression, right? 2023, the defense under Patrick Graham was ranked 15th overall. And then this last season, 2024, ranked again at 15th overall. And we ranked 15th overall, and we were missing Malcolm Kuntz the entire season. We ended up, Christian Wilkins signed him as a free agent, and that was an amazing signing. But then he ended up pretty early on, I think it was week 6 or something, being injured for the rest of the season. And then Max Crosby was dealing with that high ankle sprain and ended up being out for season later on in the year to go get surgery. So we were missing Marcus Epps. Who else were we missing on the defensive side of the ball? I mean, it was just like riddled with injuries, and we had rookies out there. We had third stringers out there. It was just, for us to be able to rank number 15 overall with the amount of injuries that we had going on, not to mention that complementary football was just not there. The offense was playing horrifically, not able to sustain drives, not able to keep the ball, a lot of 3 and outs, the defense being on the field way too much and way too often, not getting proper ability to kind of rest up for the next drive. And so for us to rank number 15 overall after all of that, I think speaks to a lot. And if you look at Pete Carroll, now Pete Carroll, he's definitely, famous for coaching the defense that took on the name Legion of Boom, right? And a lot of people are speculating that we're going to call it Legion of Doom over here in Raider Nation. I don't really want to piggyback off of what that was, but I do believe that Pete Carroll, being a defensive minded coach, can really bring a lot of opportunity to help this defense flourish even more. We have a lot of good defensive pieces, and I think that a lot of our free agents and superstar Max Crosby, are going to be more enticed to stick around, having Patrick Graham still in the building. So there's the continuity in that, and then also having Pete Carroll, who's a defensive-minded guy. It's pretty clear that this defense is going to probably take a leap. Now, Pete Carroll had a top 5 offense for 5 years in a row, and that's why they got the name of the Legion of Boom. And they were number 1 2013, 2014. So being in a spot of having that kind of track record with defense and them saying we want to retain Patrick Graham makes me believe that Pete Carroll and John Spytek believe that Patrick Graham's going to be able to get it done, and he's also going to offer some consistency in the locker room. There has been some speculation of Bobby Wagner, right? And I don't really know. I got on X, right? Because I saw on Facebook a post that showed a screenshot, and it was when the Raiders said, we're hiring Pete Carroll. And then there was Bobby Wagner, and it had fingers crossed, 2 emojis with a fire symbol, a fire emoji in the middle. And I went to go look on X to pull up the comments, and it wouldn't let me pull up the comments. It was weird, man. And so this could be just speculation, right? But if Bobby Wagner really put that, how would you feel about bringing Bobby Wagner to Raider Nation to end off his career? Now, I know that we have a record of bringing in guys late in their career, Marshawn Lynch, Marcus Peters, Jerry Rice. We tend to bring in these guys, Warren Sapp, that, have already had an amazing career, and then we bring them in when they're in their 30s, and then, Raider Nation gets all hyped up, and then we end up getting let down because, it just didn't turn out as good as we really hoped it would. Now, Bobby Wagner is, he's that guy. Right, and so in this last year with the Commanders, he played pretty good, not as good as usual, but the year before had an outstanding year. I believe that was with the Rams. Correct me if I'm wrong. But if he wants to play for Pete Carroll, I think that Pete Carroll would do whatever it takes to bring him in. And I should have looked it up before I started this video. I didn't even think about it. I believe Bobby Wagner is a free agent this year. And if we could bring him in on free agency, I'd be all about it. Now, if we ended up having the trade for him, then it would be I'd be a little bit more skeptical. But really, what a big part of what's going to happen with the defensive side of the ball is seeing what happens with the offensive side of the ball. Are we going to be able to retain a quarterback? Who's going to be our offensive coordinator? What's that going to look like? Because if our offense is clicking a lot better than it was this last year, by default, our defense is going to be able to have the opportunity to play better. And then, having that consistency with Patrick Graham, with oversight from Pete Carroll, because there's a lot of times where, Patrick Graham it's like there's these holes that are happening, right? There's this way that the defense is getting beat and teams will start picking us apart sometimes. And when that starts happening, I believe that Pete Carroll can be like, hey, look, this is what I see, right? And not even just in game, but also during the off season of being able to work with him and helping perfect the craft, right? And I believe that Patrick Graham would be open to anything that he could learn from Pete Carroll with this, because Pete Carroll has a lot more experience than Patrick Graham. Patrick Graham will be moving into his 7th year as a defensive coordinator, and honestly, I'm pretty hyped about this. I did like the idea of some of the flashy names that were out there. Robert Saleh was somebody I kind of wanted. And then when he signed with the 49ers, it was kind of clear that it's starting to look like the best option for us would be Patrick Graham. And Patrick Graham did go and interview for a head coaching position. He interviewed for other defensive coordinator positions. And the fact that places are looking at Patrick Graham as potential for a head coach tells me a lot. Tells me a lot about why it's important for us to keep him as a defensive coordinator. But you guys let me know your thoughts on this down in the comments. And like always, I love you, Nation. I'll see you on the next one.